lead us in the flag salute?
We were going to have two. Mr. Soul nominated Caitlin Jenkins. Go ahead and stand up. So I told you I was going to embarrass you and everything, so we're good. Okay. This is a student with such great potential to succeed and represent her school, family, and teachers very well as she grows older. I have Caitlin in homeroom and social studies class, and I'm impressed with her excellent character, serious student conduct, and polite behavior. Caitlin, despite her reserved demeanor, is capable of great intellectual thought and high-quality work. I've also noticed Caitlin's capacity for great kindness and leadership. One of the greatest attributes Caitlin possesses is the ability to make her friends and classmates follow her example of good scholarship. Students who work with or around Caitlin have a tendency to do well and respond to my challenges with more gusto. What a treat to be able to plant Caitlin in certain groups and watch her discreetly bring about positive change. Caitlin is always willing to help me and other classmates spruce up my room after an active day. Unlike all my helpers, Caitlin never asks for or accepts rewards for these actions. Sometimes Caitlin leads cadres of her friends into my classroom after school too. I will walk into my classroom and find some book stacked, pictures of dinosaurs on my wall. What more could a teacher ask for? And we also have here, Marissa Williams. This is from Mrs. Nadu's class. I have asked one of my outstanding students to come and lead the school board in the Pledge of Allegiance. Marissa Williams is a strong leader. She is trustworthy and honest. Every morning she reminds me to send in my attendance and lunch count. Every class she is working hard, asking questions when needed, and helping other students who don't understand a concept. She takes algebra readiness as an advanced level class. Outside of school she dances with Miss Nancy. She clogs. She's very athletic by playing basketball, soccer, and skiing. She's a leader in her church community by being an altar server. She is well behaved at all occasions, even coming up to Lone Oak for an ice cream cone with her dad. This is a very impressive student, and we all look forward to seeing great things in her future. I look forward to seeing her as a public leader in the future. And Marissa's dad is here, Joe Williams, who I think everybody knows.
Hello.
And Caitlin's mom here is Vicki Jenkins, to help us sing the pledge. So both of you are going to stand up, place the flag, and then you can start the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Very good job, girls. Thank you for coming in.
Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you, Joe.
See ya.
See you in the morning.
Yeah, bright and early.
Okay, next we're going to have a presentation from Spalding High School on the alternative education opportunities. Let me introduce Assistant Principal Mr. Newell and Principal Mr. Seawood.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Rob Seward. I'm the principal at Spalding High School. This is Paul Newell. We are here tonight to talk a little bit about all pathways, but I think in order to do that effectively, I need to kind of give you a little bit of insight into where this comes from. About, I want to say more like 7 or 8 years ago, we had started the journey of looking at competencies and whether or not we could assess students in a different way. A lot of times you hear people talk about this 100-year-old educational model, things of that nature, and we really started to wonder, is there a better way? Through that process, we really learned a lot about competencies. One of the most important pieces of competencies we learned is that if a student doesn't finish them, you make them take the course again. So if a student's going along, they're doing pretty well, but they don't quite make it. We used to call an F, right? An F can mean a lot of things. It can mean they got nothing, they got something, they got a lot, but not enough. And what we used to do with the students at Spalding was, and I'm sure most schools out there, if they got an F, we said, do it again. Even though they might have had 3/4 or a quarter or a third or something like that of the knowledge, we made them go back and do all of that work over again. What we decided was doing that exact same work over again really wasn't what we needed to have happen. We needed them to make up the stuff that they didn't get. We needed to figure out what was the hole in their knowledge and fill that hole. Well, in order to do that, we had to figure out a way to provide relearning opportunities for students. And as you know, we have a very strict schedule. It's 180 days long. You know, you don't have more, you don't have less. That's what you got. And so we had to be careful in how we were going to get that information out to these students. How were we going to give them those opportunities? And what we decided was we had to provide a lot of different methods, a lot of different pathways. Some students do well in 4x4 block scheduling, some don't. Some students learn information relatively quick and in a very teacher-centered environment. Others need a lot of different types of environments, a lot of different interventions. So what we developed was an alternative pathway program. And what this program is designed to do, and what you're going to be learning all about tonight, is it's designed to catch those kids wherever we leave them, whether it's at the end of a course and they're not quite there, they're going to pick up a little bit, whether it's a student that comes to us and says, I can't function in this environment, I need a different environment, maybe a smaller environment, maybe one where they're taught by a computer, maybe one where they get an independent study and they can work on it at their own pace. There's a whole bunch of different things that you're going to be seeing tonight that will explain those different pathways. In order to do that, we really needed to structure our entire school around this concept, and we have. So from top to bottom, Spalding High School is now a competency-based instructional institution. What we do is we take a student, no matter where they're at, we do the best we can in the confines of a course. We provide support within that course along the way, but if they don't quite make it, we don't say go back and take that course again. We say let's figure out what you're missing, and let's feed those pieces into you, and let's get that, put the puzzle together basically. And so Mr. Newell is going to take it to the next step and talk about those different programming issues.
One of our biggest goals is student engagement and success. We have 3 school-wide priorities: a culture of respect, curriculum instruction and assessment, and student engagement and success. Mr. Stewart had spoken to you about the curriculum instruction piece. Really comes down to student engagement. What's the difference between a kid coming to school every day and a kid deciding not to come to school every day? What's the difference of a kid feeling successful and feeling like they can be a successful student and a student not feeling good about themselves? And it really comes down to them having control and being able to personalize their educational experience. Alternative Pathways is a program designed to personalize and track pathways for students who are not finding success through a traditional route. The traditional route is the 4x4, you know, the 7:30 to 2:15, take the class over if you fail, that type of stuff. We have gone a different direction at Spalding High School. We've gone the competency route, and now through Alternative Pathways, we have provided students an opportunity to customize their educational experience. The students who are involved in our program are students who are behind in credits and age. You often get the student who is 18 years old, has 2 credits. 17 years old, 1 credit. And you say, well, you do the math, and you realize that that student is not going to make it. What do you do with that student? People say, well, the student just needs to come to school. They need to suck it up. They need to do it. It's not that easy. I mean, how many of us would go and continue into school where we're not feeling welcomed, we're not feeling wanted, we have 1 credit, we know we need 26 credits, and school doesn't come easy, and we're 17 years old with our birthdays next week. I mean, that's pretty powerful. So students who are behind in credits, behind in age, and our cohorts behind in their class. They're dealing with transition issues. One of the biggest things of transition issues is with Wakefield. We deal with that. We deal with going from a small community, 400 and whatever 80 students you have, to 1,500 students. It's a big deal. And so we have to kind of anticipate that and work with those students and take them where they're at and build them up. Students who need connections, individualized supports, flexible schedules, and who need a plan before exploring other options. Before we go to VCA, Bud Carlson Academy, before we go to give them a GED, our goal was to make sure that every single student had every single intervention prior to going down those end game routes. A GED should be the last resort, the absolute last resort for a student. And we wanted to make sure that there were interventions in place before it goes there. And everything not even thought of. This year I had a student, she's going semi-pro. She wanted 3 years on a semi-pro sports team. And she said, while I'm on the road doing the sports thing, how do I continue with my education at Spalding? I'll be coming back for the last quarter of every year. What do I do? So we had an Alternative Pathways meeting. We figured out a plan. We tracked it out. We put together a program for her, and she's fine. In the former years, we would not have had that opportunity. We have that opportunity. Our team, the Alt Pathways team, there's an administrator, myself, secretary, 2 coaches, which are teachers, content area, highly qualified teachers, RC coordinator, RC teacher, GED staff, 7 E-Block instructors, a Plato supervisor, counselors, social workers, and everyone else. Just because you're not specifically on my kind of targeted team, if you will, does not mean you're not part of a student's plan. Every single person, custodial staff, all the way over, is part of a student's plan because they can wreck a kid's day in under a minute if they do the wrong thing. It doesn't take much to ruin a kid's day. Our goals really was simple this year. We wanted to align our programs, start tracking our students, know where every single student is, where they're at, and what do they need to be successful. And if they're not being successful, we pull them back into the ranks, we reorganize their plan, and we hit it again. And we don't lose anyone. That's our goal. Every single student is going to be successful. We want 0 dropouts, that's our goal. And to do that, we have to make sure that every single kid gets what they need. The biggest part I like is really the self-efficacy, is that piece. Students really understanding who they are and how they identify themselves. Because so many of the students we work with, they don't see themselves as successful students or as people. They see themselves as kind of broken and nobody has value and they don't have value. And we want them to see that they do have value and that they can make it. And there really is no option. Education is the way out. Education is it. Our tiered interventions, you can see by the list here. I just highlight a few big ones. Rochester Community Ed is a big one. Plato is essential. It's our online learning program. It allows us to recover credits and recover competencies without doing entire classes over again. So if you're in a math class and you know how to multiply fractions, why are you sitting in math class learning how to multiply fractions again? When what you had trouble with was adding fractions. So what we do is we targeted their educational plan to what they're missing in terms of their course competencies. And that makes all the difference in the world when a kid realizes they just have to learn what they don't know. They don't have to relearn what they already know in a classroom where a teacher may not like them. It changes the game. And we are very, very involved with Plato. RCE, if you see that as Rochester Community Education, that allows us to give classes in the afternoon, 3 to 5, and allow us to give instruction classes 5 to 7:30. So we offer some English classes with instructor base. So if a kid doesn't learn well on the computer, they can go at night and get an instructor to teach them English, and they can recover credit that way, and it works for them. We have a lot of students who they want to work, they have to work, and that gives us flexibility. Extended learning opportunities, they can develop themselves, and of course GED, which is our last resort, big thing. It's a big deal, but it's our absolute last resort. And what we found with this program, Alternative Pathways, is we can guarantee that that's their last resort, where before it wasn't always guaranteed. We didn't know if we tried everything, because no one was documenting, no one's really looking at it. Now we absolutely are looking at everything. Some data, in October 2011 this year, we had Rochester Community Ed is a diploma granted, 20 credit minimum state diploma. Students have that opportunity. We had 48 students in that pathway. SHS, these are tracks, not specific programs. SHS, we had 39 kids in alternative pathways. BCA, we had 10 students going over there. And GED, we had 28 kids. Now, oh yeah, we had 1 kid, let me just go back, 1 student in Job Corps. Just going around clockwise, in Job Corps, the 1 student that we had graduated from Job Corps, found success, and we put another student in Job Corps. That's why the 1-1. SHS, we have 118 individualized education plans, really. I don't want to confuse it with special ed because it's not, but we have individualized, personalized plans. That means 118 kids have sat down in a meeting with me, with other people, multiple times, and have decided this is what I need to do to be successful, and have put in place classes, credit recovery options. It's a whole myriad of possibilities. Very complex, but it's wonderful. RCE, we're down to 38 students who are enrolled for the diploma. We've graduated 9 already this year. Our projected, just so you know, we don't have the hard data on this, our projected in June is 37 students. That's 37 students that would have dropped out of school, but are not dropping out because they have a different option available to them. And RCE, remember, is generally night classes, afternoon classes, if you think of it like that. BCA, again, through our program, I know that all 15 of those kids that went to Bud Carlson Academy went there because they needed that. Not because we didn't have anything else or we weren't creative enough. They went there because they needed that. GED, this encompasses 4 different programs, but realistically, DOLC is our biggest one, Dover Adult Learning Center. 30 students we have currently enrolled. We've graduated 15 students. That's 15 students we would have lost. The difference is now, when a student walks through my door and says, I want to get a GED, I want to complete something. Within that day, I have them signed up, and the next morning their appointment's there, they're getting pre-tested, they're in the program. It used to be weeks, somebody would get back to you, we don't know who's working with the kid, we lose the kid. We don't lose them anymore. The kid gets it, they get in. 15 completers. 15 kids with a future, where they didn't have one before. That's unbelievable. Unbelievable. And RCE, when you see that 37 and you realize those kids would have dropped out, it blows your mind. I mean, think about what that does to a community when you have a lot of dropouts. And of course, the goal of all of this is success for the kids. They really have the key, but it's in the educational plan. And my goal coming here tonight was to really inform your board that that we have something going on at Spalding that's excellent and is really helping kids be successful. And Spalding students, our Wakefield students, and the Wakefield students that come in, they're one and the same to me, and we are taking care of those kids. We love those kids, and so that's where we're at.
So I think it's important for the Wakefield board to know that your students are coming to our school in a much better place than they used to potentially come to our school. We used to have 130 plus dropouts a year. Obviously a percentage of that was your students. We've gone from 130 plus students a year down to about 10. It does fluctuate a little bit. We've had as high as like 12 and as low as 8, but it's in that range. We are shooting for 0. We want to capture them all. Some of the things that we face as a challenge, and I'm sure you do as well, is sometimes we just don't know where they went. We find them living in Florida 2 years later, and so sometimes it's hard to keep track of them, and that's the population that's left. It used to be we lost a lot of kids that we could find. We just didn't have any options for them. We're working on a very hopefully effective GED program right here in Wakefield to try and reduce the driving range that some of these students have to get through to get to that program. We've also worked out some arrangements with the bus company to transport students down for various programs. So we're doing a lot of things to really try and work with your population, which is our population. We at Spalding High School do not recognize the difference walking down the hallway between a Wakefield student and a Rochester student, or a Gonick, or an East Rochester, or Elizabeth Seton student. Those they're not distinguished that way. They don't have signs on them. So for us, it's meaningless to me where they come from. What matters for me is, are they successful? The dropout rate, I think, is indicative of that. I think that it's important that people recognize as well that the way we look at this is a journey. I don't care if a kid finishes when they're 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 20, 21. That doesn't matter to me. It's not about how old you are. It's about, have you finished the process yet? Have you made it through that program? And so for us, it really is about the journey, and that's how we're looking at it, and we're trying to make sure that both this board as well as our own board are on board with us in that journey. Because clearly, you have obviously funding issues that you're worrying about. So does Rochester, but the reality is it really comes down to kids. And we know for a fact that most of the prisoners in jail are high school dropouts. We know that. We also know that if you have a high percentage of dropouts in your community, you have a higher rate of poverty, higher rate of welfare, higher rate of crime, all that stuff. And we're working like crazy. I almost said something different, sorry about that. We're working like crazy to try and help both communities see improvement in that area through the one thing we control, which is education. That's all we can control. I can't control the other stuff, but that's the one we do have our thumb on, and we are really working hard at it. So.
Well, one of the key pieces I didn't mention in one of my slides is the transition. We've worked excellent. I mean, the Paul School has been excellent in the last couple of years to really work the transition between 8th grade and 9th grade. We've done shadow days. We bring Wakefield, the Paul School students in and actually have them attend the entire day and follow shadows around, mentors. Well, we don't do that with every program, every school. We offer that so kids can get a real life experience of what Spalding looks like during the day, and it's not as scary as they think. We've loved working with your administration. We've loved doing that piece because we've got to do all those other things that we heard years ago that you needed to do. And I think it's excellent that the Paul School has been open to that. It's been good for the kids. So for me, I just wanted to make sure I came up and presented that piece to you. It was a good thing.
You certainly sound excited about this.
I'm excited.
You could tell the enthusiasm in your voice.
I love the fact that our communities work together. And I think, if you think about it, 480 kids feeding into such a huge different culture.
Right.
It's very important we don't lose the Wakefield students,
right,
and we offer things that are going to connect them and personalize their education for them, because it's so radically different for so many. And same for Rochester, by the way. We have a segment of Rochester population that it works wonderfully for too. I mean, the bottom line is everyone has their own culture. I have my culture, you have yours, but it's great. So yeah, I am passionate about it. I love seeing the kids be successful, and I really am excited when we can report that we have 0 dropouts, and that every single kid who starts school finishes school.
Exciting.
I mean, that's the goal.
Do any of the board members have any questions of Paul or Rob?
Well, if I could, not really a question, but a comment, because I personally went through the abomination of Spalding High School. So it's good to see that some things are changing down there, because what I saw down there was a disgrace, to be perfectly honest with you.
Well, thank you for the compliment.
Onward and upward, and you know they're doing a great job.
Every year
and,
things change for our schools.
Yeah,
And thank you very much
I'd really
for-
like to thank you
Sounds
for
like a
coming
great
out.
program.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, and also just for, it's been so organized. These are all the options that students have, and I think that that's been very helpful so that you kind of have it mapped out. You know, I think Spalding's done a great job in organizing different alternatives for students, so I appreciate your coming out and letting everyone know about that.
I think just so you understand that we have a website, and if you're ever in question, that's probably the most informative website in the state as far as competencies and that type of thing. So if you're curious what they're learning, you can see every single course that we offer and all the competencies related to it, as well as examples of work, quizzes, assessments, things of that nature.
Right.
And it's just getting bigger all the time. We're also being looked to by most of the rest of the state that's working on competencies for their guidance. We're being called upon all the time to come and speak to other schools. So we really are the spearhead, if you will, of the competency movement. And I was so appreciative. We came up, and just so you know, we came up earlier this year. We spoke to Newt, and then came up here afterwards and spoke to Wakefield, and we were blown away by where Wakefield is at as far as the competency movement. They're ready, in my opinion, and I haven't said that about any of the school I visited. So it's pretty impressive.
Gil has been spearheading a teacher evaluation tool, so we're kind of the head on that one right now. So it's exciting. Wakefield and Spalding are both at the top.
Presentations.
What was happening? You
I
said
have to speak to the board. I don't know if the board, how the rules
Oh,
work.
On our board, you have to be recognized by the board, and we're not supposed to respond. So if the board recognizes, we don't know how that works yet.
I wasn't going to go to questions from the public because I don't really want to put you guys on the spot. You came to do a presentation, and you know.
I don't.
I
Just
think
so you know, I
that-
don't mind.
We don't mind.
We don't mind.
Okay,
This is what
Rob.
we do all the time. So.
I was just curious. Were you there prior to the last 2 years trying to implement this alternative pathways?
I was there last year when we didn't have it formed, and we were. I mean, it was kind of it was a mess. To be honest with you, we kids were getting alternative pathways, but nobody was tracking where they went. We didn't really have a handle. We were just trying to do the best thing by kids without the organization, without the formalization of a process. Before that, Mr. Seward's been here. I'll let him speak to it. He's been around a while.
I've been here for 11 years. The last 5 as an administrator. When I hired 2 years ago, I hired him specifically for his alt background. Paul comes from a very strong and extensive alternative background. We knew that we wanted a better system, a better program, because that's the only way to make competencies work. We just didn't have that experience. Nobody on my admin team had that. So we actually were looking for that position. We found it in Paul and we hired him. And it's pretty amazing what he's been able to do last year in planning and this year in implementation. It's been a pretty impressive 2 years, and I think we're poised to probably have one of the most extensive, if not the most extensive, alternative program in the state of New Hampshire.
Yeah.
We've been to Concord, we've been to all these other schools.
Yeah, I've been to Nashville.
They're
A
great.
bunch of conferences.
They're great, but yeah.
We're the only ones doing what we're doing.
The presentation was wonderful.
Well,
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
In the transition process, do you find that kids who have consistency, you know, at home in their hometown, stuff like that, do you find that helps them, or is it, is there any credence to the idea that continuation or consistency helps kids with their education?
Consistency helps in every way, shape, or form in every single area.
The most struggling population at Spalding typically has been the transient population, the students that come and go. And you know that we're a pretty big transient community. We've got Dover, Somersworth, Rochester, Farmington, Milton, and these kids in some cases will literally visit all of those schools in their high school career, and it truly becomes difficult. But So that's the group that struggles the most. So if you can find a way to keep a student in one community, give them the opportunity to grow up with kids, to stay stable in that environment, and to get used to a system in a school, then they're probably going, not probably, they will definitely do better than a student that's transferring in and out of our schools.
And that's why transition is so important, and that's why, you know, we look forward to working with Wakefield.
Yeah.
Because the transition is, to get it consistent, you have to first expose them to what they are going to
Right.
deal with. And that's why we've put such a focus. Trish has done a great job working with us in terms of transition.
Great.
And Gail, it's been wonderful. So we look forward to the future.
Okay, thank you very
Do you
much.
have
so
that
much.
web
Really
address by
appreciate it.
chance?
I'm sorry, say that again.
The web address you were talking?
www.rochesterschools.com
Yep.
/SHS. When you get to that site, right down at the bottom corner, it says pretty big letters, competency-based assessment, I believe. Just click on that and you will get to the page where everything is located.
Rochester Schools?
RochesterSchools.com /SHS.
Okay, then.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you very much.
Okay. So next is PTA rep. I know you're in Officer Bonnie. Are you going to speak to the PTA?
I spoke with President Gould this morning, and she does not have anything where we haven't met yet.
Okay, all right, that's fine. Minutes of the last meeting. Anybody have any corrections?
Page 3.
Page what?
3. They aren't numbered, but they can figure it out. Just made a motion to accept the minutes of the non-public. I think it would help a meeting follow that.
What, where are you?
Fourth sentence. Fourth line.
And what do you want to change it to?
I just want to add the word meeting.
Oh, okay.
In the fourth paragraph that starts with Dean Mason,
Yep.
the second sentence, the water bill comes out only, not only comes out.
Okay. You got that? Okay.
Let me see. About the 15th sentence. Waste management is still charging us for what? I don't know what was meant there.
Or
I think you eliminate the 2
Yeah, take the
maybe?
2 out. Okay.
Page 4. Almost the middle of the page, it starts out, Milton is a district which this is required. Maybe in which? Or, let me see, page 5. 3, 4, 5. About the 8th line. They placed second in the regional competition and will be going to the states. And probably apostrophe S, or they're not going to all the states, are they?
Okay. Okay, you got that? Okay.
I think that's it.
Okay. I have a motion to accept the minutes of the meeting.
I have
You go ahead, sorry.
that same page at the bottom.
5?
Yep, I have it on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yes. The last paragraph, Mr. Brown called the meeting into non-public session. That means, I believe you called it into session because I was having a discussion with Mrs. Kushner as to, because there was a question on whether it was about personnel or there was the discipline report. And then there was a question to it, and then you said we're going in to see, and then you called a roll call, and
Okay.
there was no motion or second, but you called the roll call, so
Okay, we'll just change
I
that.
want that changed that to you.
We'll change that to me. Anything else?
Yeah, the next page. The second paragraph. The vote was unanimous. I did not, because that was done in non-public session, and that's a clear violation of the RSA, so I just stayed completely clear of it. So I did not vote either